So this fall I've run into seems like a uglier than normal situation with pine needles and pine cones. I don't think I can do much about the pine cones except pick them up. But the pine needles are really kind of gathering up on the yard. So what I decided to do is give it a shot, and instead of doing this all by hand, I'm going to try and I bought a rake, a tow behind rake, and I'll try to show a picture of it here. And I'll make this up in the two videos. One is a video to assemble the rake. Looks like a lot of people have trouble doing that. And second video is going to be actually trying to do some raking and see if this thing is actually going to work. I was kind of torn between getting a rake or getting a sweeper. Sweepers look pretty interesting. Even if they fill up fast, I don't care. But there's not enough detail on how well they're going to work with pine needles. Pine needles are a pain in the butt. I got a problem with pine needles on my roof too. I think I finally solved the gutter problem with the pine needles. But anyway, we're going to give this a shot. So first we're going to do some assembly, and then we're going to rake some pine needles. Well, it's another rainy day in Michigan, and looks like my new lawn rake arrived. Slice it open. Came pretty well packed. This one corner is busted out, but it looks like doesn't look like anything came out of it. Looks like I got to it before too much of it got wet inside. Thank you for your purchase. Got a phone number. Call us, email us. But no brand name. And oh my goodness. That's the assembly instructions. So everything I read or heard about online looks like it's true. It looks like the assembly instructions are a little on the vague side. So we're going to figure this out together and get through this. This is clearly the top. It goes up like this because of this piece here, which is where the chain hooks up. And looks like the tines, looks like there's 2 per. So I think I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to go ahead and put the tines on first. It looks like it's just bolts and washers. It's like washer and nut from underneath, which kind of makes sense. Both in the top. All right. All right, so the goal here is to put this thing together without having to take it apart and put it back together. So there's got to be some brackets that are fitting on here. So we know the chain goes here. Got 2 holes here, 2 holes here. And those 2 holes will take those 2 brackets. And that appears to be the only other thing that attaches to this, so I think we should be okay. So I've got the tines kind of straightened out, having tightened up 1 bolt on each pair. I can adjust these a little bit. Yeah, I think that's be good, close enough. The socket and the wrench size are, I'm using 7/8. I don't know if this is supposed to be English or metric, but the instructions sure don't give you a clue. From here on, it gets a little confusing by the instructions on exactly where all the bolts and nuts go. So I'm going to see how far I can get by putting them together loose and see if we got all the hardware to go. This one I'm pretty sure is going to be these 2 bolts. Oops, maybe not. Too big. But it says no washers. It just says bolts. Won't fit in that hole. That's the pivot hole. Too big for that. Okay, these 4 large diameter bolts with nuts, they are going to go on the handle. So we'll set those aside for a moment. It looks like the pivot one is the one that gets 2 washers. So that's probably these. It looks like they got an extra washer there. So I got 4 of these. I'm going to try and put these in here. bracket's going to be facing up in the same direction as the tines. So presumably this is the right direction. Bracket goes on the outside. So I'm using up these 4 bolts, relatively short compared to the other ones. The other ones are all long. And these had 1 washer on them. So put the bolt through, washer and nut on the other end, on the inside, so to speak. So the bolt head appears to be a 12. And the nut is a 13 millimeter. Now from the picture, again it's hard to tell, but it appears that these 2 brackets, a little better shot of that, these 2 brackets will go on this way, and notice that they're on the inside of the brackets I just bolted to the frame. And those 2 brackets are going to end up going to the axle. You gotta remember, I'm looking at the picture, but I got it upside down, so everything else goes on upside down. So I got these upside down. And these holes are not lining up, so these brackets actually go on the outside, not the inside like it shows in the picture. My next guess. Might be easier to put it on the axle shaft. At least you know it goes in here. Yeah, it appears to line up a little better. So I've got 4 of the medium length ones. That'll leave me with 2 medium length ones and 2 long ones. Tab is there, it looks like it's centered. This is going to go on the bar. Tow hitch, tow bar. Should be a couple medium length ones. Yeah, because I think the long ones are going to go through here. Okay. So I think I'm safe enough to tighten these up. Starting to get heavy. Poke a hole in my wall up there. So this one is going to mount on here like this. And of course it'll go in two ways according to the picture. There's not an easy way of telling which way that goes. So I'm tempted to go look at the pictures online to get a clue as to what that's supposed to be. But I think the principle is that you either let the lever down or you pick it up and it latches in here. So I'm going to assume it goes this way. Now this one here is supposed to pivot, so you don't want to put it on any further than getting the nylock or the nut fully engaged. And it goes on pretty easy. So we got looks like a nut on the inside that I didn't take off, a washer, the handle, a washer, and a nut. So might be a little too wobbly right there. So tell these two washers are extra. We'll put the valve stems to the outside. Seems like the neutral. There we go. large washer. And I presume a cotter pin. Because I got one cotter pin, and I got one of these. So, this looks like it goes to the hitch pin, which makes sense. So it looks like I'm short a cotter pin. Let me go get another cotter pin. I happen to have a cotter pin assortment. Not much call for these anymore. That might be a little too big. Nope, that'll work. When I put in cotter pins, they don't come out. I just bend over the longest one, bend it over to a 90, and it's good enough. Max load 300 pounds, 30 psi. We definitely got to put some air in them. And you get an air chuck. That one was at 0. And that one's at 10. 30, 32. Okay. And of course I forgot the washer on the other end. Good thing I only bent one of these tabs over. And before I forget, I'm going to tighten up these two pivot points. Not tight because you got to pivot. I went too far with that one. Feels a little stiff. There's these outside bars, they are actually way out. And I'm actually closing the gap on them. So they're not really tight. That's better. Oh yeah, that's free. So for the 4 handle bolts, we're going to go with a is that a 14 millimeter? 14 millimeter socket and a 17 millimeter wrench. Give this the old heave ho and get it down on the ground. Have a little dilemma here. My truck's in the way. So I've got it on the ground. we'll finish putting together the handle. So, this handle is going to have a lot of adjustability. There's lots of holes on both. So, I'm just going to randomly put the bolts in somewhere for now. And we'll have to tighten them up when I get the mower out. Wrong way. So there's the assembled product. Everything's all tight and snugged up. The only thing left to do is to get it hooked up to the mower and make some adjustments to stuff like the chain and these two bolts on the handle and those two bolts on the handle. Tires are aired up, got their washer and a cotta pin. The tines aren't very equally spaced, but I don't think it's going to matter that much, and you can actually bend them a little bit by hand. So just to recap, some of the things that can get messed up here in the assembly, if you're not paying attention. This bracket here, it points down, the same as the tines, they point down. So they got to point in the same direction whether you got this thing right side up or upside down when you're assembling it. This bracket here, you can see that when it folds up, that the U is going to be away from the tines. So it's going to be opening here. So if you've got it this way, that's wrong. So that's the way this bracket goes on. And these brackets go on the outside of these brackets. So this one's on the outside here, and it's on the outside there. And I don't think it makes any difference which way you put the nuts and the bolts on. Even the pivot ones, it doesn't really matter. I don't think this one matters. I think the important thing to know is that the long slot, the long single slot, goes towards the tines. And that's so you can pick this thing up with the handle and let it down. So right now it's in the pulled up position, and the chain's too long. I got to shorten the chain up, but we'll work on that once again when we get it on the mower. And the handle's pretty straightforward. You can see from the pictures that the kink is heading towards the mower. And you can put this handle on either way. It can stick out to the left or to the right. Just flip it over here. So I guess it's gonna be your preference if you can reach it on the mower, and whether you're right-handed or left-handed. So we'll see, we might have to flip that one around. This bar here, it looks like it's symmetrical, it can go either way. I went ahead and put it so the warning label was up. So right or wrong, that's the way I put that one. And see, we already talked about this bracket, that this deep slot goes that way. And you know, if you're not familiar with these are pretty simple little clips. You just spring loaded to open them up. You can unhook them, and that keeps them from getting detached or opening up. So I think that about covers the assembly so far. So let's take one quick look at the wheel. So you put the wheel on and you put on the washer. and then you put the cotter pin in. And like I said, I just bend one of the tabs over on the cotter pin. You don't have to bend them both over. You don't have to cut them unless you're trying to avoid getting yourself cut. Because if you have to take the wheel off, as long as it's long, it's easy enough to push it up and straighten it out. And one final thing to talk about before I get it on the mower is that I'm fully expecting, based on all the videos I've watched, I'm sure you've watched, that you got to get some extra weight put on these things to get them to bite into the turf and dig out the pine needles or leaves or whatever you're after. I'm after pine needles, and they tend to fall down into the grass and get in there pretty deep. So you got to add some weight to this. Looks like a couple of landscape bricks are okay. What I might do, and there's no provisions on here to add anything. Some of the more expensive rakes, they'll have a tray or something so you can actually put the landscape blocks on. You can tie them down with a bungee cord or something. So I'm probably going to have to try and figure something out, and we'll follow up on that here in a little bit. All right, so I got it hooked up to the Ryobi, and I didn't make any adjustments here. I shortened the chain by 1 link so that when it's in the up position latched, it's up about 4 or 5 inches. You can actually lift it higher manually like this. It'll actually stay there at this point. To get it to return, I had to tighten this nut down here because when I tried to return it, it would actually catch on the step, and I couldn't get it in the slot by using the lever. So you have to push it over this way a little bit to get it past this so it drops. It naturally falls into the upright latch position because of the kind of the spring and the pull of the cable, I guess, or the chain. So that's not too bad. As far as sitting on here, it's way up there, but it's at arm level for me. So I can pull it down, and then the problem is getting it over to the left to drop it. It gets a little close to my shoulder there, but it looks like it's doable. So in the light of sunshine, I looked at the times, and some of the time spacing is a little bad, so I'm going to go ahead and try to straighten out a little bit. I don't want to loosen the bolts and the nuts because I think I've already bent the tines a little bit. So I'm going to try and use a wrench and see if I can get enough bend in there. Those things are. Straightening them out on video. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to need some weight on here, but I'm going to try it without the weight first and see how that goes. I don't catch a branch. Yeah, it's going to catch this branch. Now, as you can tell, it's been a few days since I put the rake together, and in the meantime, it was Halloween, and last night it snowed. We don't get a lot of snow here in Michigan, at least lower Michigan, at Halloween. I think I looked it up, and it was like once every 25 years there's some accumulation on Halloween, but it looks pretty. So on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and close this video out. I wanted to keep this thing focused on the assembly of the leaf rake. And I'll follow this up with another video on how the actual raking goes. I will tell you I had some mixed results with it. I did have to add some weight to the rake. And the other decision you have to make is if you're going to get a rake, whether or not you want to get the legitimate Yard Tuff rake, or if you want to get the relatively cheap knockoff rake that I got from eBay, I believe. Information's in the down below in the comments. And I hope you have a nice day.